Swivl Sessions, interviews with field service entrepreneurs. Get insights and strategies from those who took the leap and risked it all to start their own home service companies. I've come to realize that there are two distinct types of contractors in the world today. There are the client-focused contractors, the ones that align themselves very closely with what a client's vision is, who prioritize what his specifications and requests are, no matter how predictable or trendy they might be, and they are very, very compliant. And then there's Simon Beams of the British Remodeler and Glass Act Mosaics, who does not do trendy, who does not do predictable, who instead likes to prioritize that which is different and unique. And above all else, he likes to champion designs that are timeless in their craftsmanship. And one of the things he said, I don't create trends that last minutes, I create trends that last decades. And in sticking to that mantra, what Simon ends up doing is he ends up creating work that is elegant and durable and is deeply personal to each client that he works with. So one of the best podcasts we've had in a while, and one that I learned a few things. So Simon Beams, the British Remodeler and Glass Act Mosaic. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to Swivl Sessions, where we shine a light on field service entrepreneurship. And this is actually kind of a special show. My cohort, Rob Heller, has been called away, so our guest gets to only deal with me. This is the first podcast actually doing it by myself. But as he pointed out to me, our guest earlier, sometimes the best things happen when you don't plan for them. So glad to have Simon on. And growing up in the South, being around builders and contractors, either friends or family, the two words that I rarely heard were British craftsmanship. And in doing research on this next guest and seeing the incredible work that he does, it will surely resonate with you, and so will he. Simon Beams from the British Remodeler joining us today. Simon, thank you very much.
No problem. You're welcome.
I meant that as a term of endearment when I said British craftsmanship. You know, you grow up around a lot of Southern builders, and they don't bring that up. But doing some research on you was just blown away at how great some of your work is. So wanted to congratulate you on that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So the background, talk to me, walk me through getting into to that line of work. What were you doing before, and don't leave out any of the good stuff.
I've been a tile setter for 25 years. My dad's a draftsman, architect. So I've always kind of been in the know of, what stuff should look like. Back in the year 2000 in Manchester, England, I started working with an Italian. And put a long story short, spent 5 years working for the guy. And then I get this opportunity to move to America. And
through him.
Yeah. When you first get here and, flying into O'Hare, you see all the it's surreal about the amount of potential, the amount of architecture that you see. So I've lived in Colorado for the past 20 years. I've worked with a bunch of people. I've worked with some really good tile guys. I've worked with some heck of deck builders, trim carpenters, cabinet guys. We've done fix and flips. We've done it all. And it's like, okay, cool. Whatever. It's every run of the mill kind of stuff. 8 years ago, I started all by design tile and more. I started getting into building my own kind of thing. It's okay. It was fun doing a few things here and there, getting to do mosaics here and there, whatever. But I still wasn't quite happy. So I created the British Remodeler a year ago. Since then, I've done a few coffered ceilings, which, basically multi-layered beams. I've done quite a few mosaics, and I've just been doing things differently. What I mean by differently...
When you say differently, are you bringing it like the tile mentality into the remodeling side with the craftsmanship?
I just don't do boring. I don't do modern. I don't do everyday run-of-the-mill cookie cutter garbage. I mean, I'm tired of seeing 12 by 24 tiles on the walls. I'm tired of seeing random basic baseboard. it just gets tiring. So the motto that I'm trying to push is that I don't create trends that last minutes. I create trends that last decades. And if you can't get and grasp that right away, what that means, you're not my type of client. You got to think about it and step back and think about that. I'm not interested in Instagram stuff. I don't care about lights and trendy stuff. I don't care about the latest this or that. I don't care about Pinterest. I couldn't care less. My thing is that you have a house. You're paying for that house. You should be able to do whatever you want and not worry about the resale value or the next, and maybe I shouldn't because I might not be able to sell the house. Who cares if you're not going to sell the house? You're living in it, you know? You're you're living in the house. So do you. You be
Yeah.
you. You want a contractor that wants to listen to you and do everything that you want. You're paying for it. So contractors need to be quiet, listen to the client, and the client gets what they want. If you can't do it, if it's not to code or, then you just work around it. Well, let's do this, let's do that. So that's just my thing. I do unique, I do different, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today. And that's it. Pretty simple.
So the durability side of, I mean, it sounds like you're creating just kind of elegant work for people that is getting away from that whole boring trend that you see with contractors, and that you're looking for just people that want to express themselves a little bit more, right?
That's my ideal type of client is basically people that will express their vision, you know, their, putting something on a paper and putting it on the wall, whether that be an accent wall made out of wood or random shapes and stuff, or, wanting to
Yeah,
do tile art or, let's paint an accent wall, different colors, whatever. The possibilities are endless when it
yeah.
comes to doing stuff, and it doesn't have to cost much. When a lot of people see
Eh,
elegant, that's really expensive. I can't afford that.
or not very.
Right, right. So it's hard to get the point across of what you do. It's people don't really get it. What I mean by the anti-Pinterest or anti-Instagram contractor. It's hard to get across. So, the jobs that are fewer, but by sticking to my guns, I believe in creating my own personal way of doing things. I don't want to veer from the track. I want to stay on the track and I want to keep doing what I do. If that means I lose jobs. Now, but yeah, getting the word out is the most important part. And that's the struggle with especially living in a very conservative town like Colorado Springs.
I know it well. I spend a little of my time every year in Southwest in Durango and Telluride, and I have since I was a kid. So I know that state pretty well. But I love the fact that you are sticking by your guns. I think you are served better when you don't try to round peg that square hole with the work that you're doing. And I think that's the reputation that you build, and that's the reward for sticking to your guns.
Yeah. No, it is. It's the the visa the visibility of being able to do that is the most important part. That's why I was you're gonna like this. That's why I was looking for about 2 days ago. I was looking for an all-in-one kind of software. You know,
Yeah,
I'm on Hostinger, I'm on this, I'm on that, whatever. So I was looking around. I always get on Reddit. So I'm reading this thread, and then some guy recommends, hey, why don't you go over here and try Swivl? So I was like, I've never heard it before. So, I check it out. And, at first you're like, yeah, okay, sure. So the web builder is actually kind of different than most things. It gives you options. The AI is not going to generate it for you. You literally can go through and select what each part of the site you want to look like with pre-built kind of things. which is great. You know, it's got SEO in there. It's got all sorts of different options you can generate with AI, pictures, you know, whatever descriptions based off of what you have on that page already. So, you know, the builder so far is actually working out pretty good.
That's awesome.
I've just started dabbling in a few of the other things. Obviously, you know, you subscribe and stuff like that, you get more features. But I mean,
Well,
so
more, yeah, more
far,
like premium features like that.
yeah, yeah, you know, like, you know, and the good thing about having a platform that does basic stuff so far, you could always add to that. You know, you could always add, you know, backlinks or this or that, you know, social media. So far, you know, props to the platform. It's
Thank you.
working quite well. So, and that helps out kind of drive you straight. You know, you can put that on the back burner. That's now sorted out. Then you can focus more on the work that you want to push. Staying to your guns, sticking to what you do and what you want to do. The more jobs you have, the more photos you can get, the more clients you can have. Eventually that tree's going to start to build. It just takes
Absolutely.
time, you know. So
Well, thank you for that. We're a young company. We have found a niche that is a part of a pond that a lot of people that are bigger than us don't fish, and it's the small business owner that just has not come to understand the importance of having an online presence and having a CRM and having a way to look a little bit more professional. That's been kind of our journey for the last year. But and I appreciate you saying that. I got a quick question about what your expectations were. You were with the Italian, and then you got away to do your own thing. Were you expecting as a business owner to have more time, more free time, more family time, or did you know going in it was going to be a slugfest?
I've been in business for 8 years. The first thing being a business owner, you're like, yeah, I'm going to make all this money. That's not the case. The biggest thing about having business is the freedom to create your own schedule, the freedom to be able to knock off early, the freedom to be able to dictate how long a job's going to take. Especially when you're not really in a rush, you're just there to kind of just go with the flow, enjoy it, you know, because you're already getting paid a good amount, but you're not chasing. When I first started out, I started chasing the carrot because I'm seeing the dollar signs.
Yep. Yeah.
And, you know, I've had a couple people working for me, but the more and more I did it, the more and more stress you're adding on to yourself, the more paperwork. Well, I got to take care of this guy's bills now. I got to take care of that guy's bills. So the stress, I mean, I've aged. I mean, I look at myself for, you know, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah, I've had a couple of kids since then, but the stress of running a
Yep.
business, the stress of being able to have everything on your shoulders is insurmountable. But at the same time, I'm not working for anybody else. I'm working for myself. That's the gratification. You're building your own empire. You're building your own reviews. So you kind of take the rough with the smooth. Now I've kind of scaled back a lot. I just work by myself and, you know, stress is we're coasting right now. And to be able to coast, stay busy, you're not going to make $1 million and be rich. Anybody that says that is full of crap. Sorry. Oh, I make $50 million a year. Yeah, you might have made $50 million a year in sales, but you probably took home about 5% profit.
You're the last one
So,
to get paid.
well, yeah, exactly. You always are. So, but yeah, it's fun. It's not fun. That's all I can tell
And
you. Right?
that's the rub. I mean, that's when you look at entrepreneurship, and it takes a special person to make that jump. A lot of people want to do it and they can't. They're afraid. They have these
It's not for the
demons
faint
that
of
come into
heart.
their head. There's definite, that risk that some people just are don't want to deal with. But like you said, the reward is that peace of mind of being in that stream and flowing in the direction that you want to go in. I always look at my friends that are artists or that are builders. You have that legacy, and you leave that legacy out there. So
There's a lot of
yet another underhanded compliment to you, Simon. So there you go.
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people trying to build that legacy. The bit one of the if you mess up, you know, you can mess up one job and that perfect review, you'll get a 1 star, this or that. You know, I've had 1 stars before. had disagreements with clients, contractors, general contractors, and it's just a part of the game. Anybody that's
Yeah.
got, oh, I've never been sued or I've never messed up a job is lying, because it takes, if you can fall down 6 times and get back up a seventh and succeed on the seventh time,
And learn.
you're learning from your mistakes.
I've always appreciated those reviews that you when you're looking or doing research and you see the one person that was not happy, and I always love to see the owner or some aspect of the company reaching out and wanting to know, okay, what did we do? You know, how can we change that? Or because to me that shows that the care is there from they say the fish stinks from the head.
Which
I
stinks
would
from
like to ask you about hiring. You said that you right now you're just by yourself. Is that just kind of where the happiness comes from in work right now? Is you're not stressing about other employees or other schedules or
even with everyday general life, I surround myself with my family, and I'm good with that. I'm
yeah.
very antisocial.
We don't say that. We say we enjoy solitude.
Yeah, I enjoy solitude. I just like being around my family, and
Why is that, that's not a bad thing?
I don't have time for, we're surrounded by stupidity nowadays.
Yeah, you got that right.
We're surrounded by unfathomable idiocracy, and I just want to stay well clear of it. I'm good
Good.
with just my little thing. I'm happy with that. I'm not trying to get famous. I'm never going to be famous. I'm just another guy.
But you're another guy doing it your way
I'm another guy doing
and
it my way.
doing
Yeah.
how old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
3, 6, and 14.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
And I mean, raising a family in Colorado, I've loved that. Part of me will be buried out there. It's just a special place. But you do kind of have that ability to be away from the mainstream and do your own thing. And I think that's just a good spot
Well,
for building out there.
we're in a small town, Colorado Springs, which is small
Yep.
enough to the point where we're good. I mean, yeah, it's a good place to be for now. For now.
Well, what's next for you've got the British Remodeler that's about a year old, and I know you had some plans coming up for a new company, and I think that was Glass Act Mosaic.
Glass Act Mosaics, peak artistry, it's hard to believe.
Really
Yeah, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, there used to be this method of installing mosaics, which is still being uncovered today. It's called tesserae. Tesserae means the small formation of tiles inside a mosaic or artist type piece. So kind of coinciding with the old style fashion, the old fashioned kind of British style of traditional workmanship, craftsmanship, is to bring in a second step to reinvigorate, bring back this ancient style of mosaic work, vitreous glass, stones, ceramic, you name it, whatever. There are people out and there are people that do it on a daily basis, but a lot of people don't quite get. When you look at a photo, it's hard to decipher what looks like a painting and what looks like an actual mosaic. So the plan is to basically mainstream different kinds of things that people use on a daily basis. Coasters, some stuff to do with the kitchen, picture frames. A lot of the stuff that I'm working on is different than other people's stuff. A lot of this stuff is going to get patented. It doesn't exist. So it's going to be a system where people can buy and add on to certain things that they buy, whether that be for Christmas, Halloween, or maybe they might want
like
something for their favorite football team.
like
You
like
know,
a project, like it's something that they can do finish themselves.
no, it's something that's pre-finished, but something that they can change out.
Okay,
So coinciding with different types of holidays throughout the year.
yeah, okay, I got it.
So we also do large custom mosaics, picture frame. The possibilities are completely endless.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's one of the main things that I'm going to try to bring into fruition here over the next year and try to definitely, there's no market for it right now. So the idea is to basically kind of push that kind
Yeah,
of thing and see what we can do to make it visible a little more.
well,
So
introduce it to the world. It sounds like,
that's the idea. Yeah. Yeah.
but with your twist on it, which
anyone can make a mosaic. Anyone, you could. The difference is, and you've seen the Alaskan mosaic that I have on my website.
I have, and it is unbelievable. Did you get my text
Yeah,
telling you about that?
depth perception is the ability to create depth in a picture or mosaic without making it look 3D is the hardest thing and the most skillful thing that people struggle to do. That really separates amateur versus
Yeah.
pro. And the ability to do that has took me years to figure out how to do. And one of the people that actually helped me learn how to do it was good old Bob Ross.
Wasn't he just a treasure?
He was. He was. I watch a lot of Bob Ross, and I've actually managed to able to actually transform his method from paint to tile.
He had a gift of starting out in a direction and completely what I would always say, especially when I was younger watching him, I thought, what is he doing? He has totally wrecked this great painting, and then he makes it better by, you know,
Adding
what he
different
was
things.
adding adding into the foreground, making it to look like you said, a very seamless transition
Well,
with the
and
depth
that
perception.
it's funny because I actually took apart that mosaic 4 times before I was
I'm
actually
looking at it. I'm looking at it right now, and it is awesome. I've sent this all over the company, the office, and everyone has just been like, "Holy cow!" So and
it's
you know
not
what? Another
perfect.
thing they've all asked too. They've been throwing out different. Is that clay? Is that glass? Is that And I think that kind of adds to the mystique of it. People don't know what that is.
Have my own methods of making it look the way it looks. So, and yeah, so that's
Oh,
Glass Act Mosaics. That's another company coming out. But again, I'm just a normal guy. I'm not famous. I'm just your everyday run of the mill, just another contract doing things my own way, and I'm okay with that. So
would things have been different if you had not said yes and you had stayed in where was it? Manchester?
eh, I wouldn't be where I was nowadays.
Or as
So
fulfilled, probably.
yeah, I think that's one of the main things is
Yeah.
not being fulfilled with, and I'm still not fulfilled. I've got this
Good for you.
so,
Good. Hey, that's the best thing I've ever. I love hearing that. You're not done.
yeah, there's there's so many things that you can do. It's just having the money to do it and having the clientele to be able to deliver it. That's the most important part of business, delivery and execution. So
And being a master craftsman too helps a little bit.
yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, there's always room to improve.
Good.
With everything that you do. There's always an easier way. There's always a way to make it better. I'm by no means the best. There's some damn sight better people than me that are, but I'm just me doing me in a small town in Colorado, and I'm cool with that. So
Well, what's the future or the exit strategy if one of these gets to a point where you're hiring on people or you build it up? Do you want to turn it into a family thing where the kids come into it or
don't think, my 14-year-old, she's kind of a bit of an artist,
nice?
but that's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. I guess I'm still
That's it's
early days.
it's allowed. It's allowed. I'm glad that I stumped you though.
I'm still young. The business is still young. So it might not get there. It may do, it might not get there. I don't really know. It all comes down to funds at the end of the day.
And what is fulfilling you. And I think there's no better judge of that than that kind of voice that has led you this far. When you sell yourself out for the wrong reasons,
Mhm.
that's just a taint that doesn't go away. But we've covered a lot of ground, Simon, and it's the journey to me is everything. And just hearing yours has been truly incredible.
Journey is
But
not
before I let you go, and that's what I love about it. But before I let you go, for the people that are watching, what are listening, what is some advice that you would give future entrepreneurs? Not necessarily field service, but just anyone out there that's thinking that they want to work for themselves.
don't be afraid of making the jump. Don't be afraid of making the jump. If you fail, you can go back to where you were. At least you can say you tried. You're better off going through life trying than not trying and wondering. I mean, that's the easiest thing I could say to anyone. Make the jump.
Well, that's
Do what you want to do. Get a job that you like. Get a job that you enjoy. It doesn't matter if you get paid less. Money's not everything. If you can get a job that you love doing every day, like I've done for the past 25 years, you're golden. You're golden, period. Happiness is the most important thing when it comes to work and having a business. That's it, period. Point blank.
It has been just amazing talking to you and hearing how you made it over here and the journey that you're on building these two companies. For anyone in the Colorado Springs area, or probably a little bit beyond, I'm sure you might travel a little bit, but
I go where the money is.
With British Remodeler and Glass Mosaic, and you could, if you want to get a hold of Simon, you can find his information right here. Put your finger up, Simon. But for anyone looking to get some work done, and not just work, but some quality craftsmanship that is truly made by an artist, reach out to Simon Beams. And just calling you a remodeler, to me, kind of it tells you a little short. But the elegance that you're putting into it is just amazing.
I try.
Well, Simon Beams, you're an awesome person to spend an afternoon with, and I know you're busy, but I just appreciate you as the crafty podcast veteran that you are, coming in and spending some time with us. So thank you for being on Swivl Sessions. Cut.
Thanks for listening or watching. Swivl's field service software is everything you need to run your field service business for free. Till next time, check us out at swivl.tech. That's SWIVL.tech.